Movies with Ron.
Hell yeah, motherfucker.
Movies with Ron.
Hey folks, it's Movies with Ron.
Hey yo!
Welcome to the show. Okay, now every week, Ron goes to see a movie, and he recaps the whole movie from beginning to end for me and Rick, because we like his versions better.
Mm-hmm.
My name's Chris. I'm your MC for the time being. Across from me is our sound engineer, Rick.
How goes it?
Hey, Rick. And next to him, it's Ron, everybody.
What's up, you motherfuckers?
Hey, man.
How's it going, guys?
Going good. You ready for a show?
Let's do this. Rick, how's your week?
Oh, God. Very stressful. So looking forward to this episode.
All right, I hear you.
Rick, did you watch the season premiere of The Walking Dead?
No, don't say anything about it.
No?
And guys,
Do you know what's supposed to happen?
Do you know what's supposed to happen on this show? Spoilers.
Yeah? Rick loses a hand? I've heard many things.
You've heard a few things, indeed.
I don't know.
Hey, Chris.
What?
What's Glenn's favorite restaurant?
What?
Popeyes. You like that?
Shit.
I'm going to throw credit for that out to a buddy at work named Wes. And then he told me that. I couldn't stop laughing, man. I was like, I'm stealing that shit for the show. And then 2 days later, or a day later, that guy, another dude comes up to me. He's like, hey, Ron, what's Glenn's favorite restaurant? And I was like, Popeyes. He goes, oh, you heard it? I was like, yeah, Wes told you that too? And he goes, no, it's all over the internet.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, man.
Rick doesn't get it.
I get it. It's good chicken.
Get in the flask. What? I forget it. Give me an 8-piece.
Get in the flask.
Let the sin begin.
All right. Speaking of zombies,
All right.
what were you telling me about those Resident Evil movies?
About the stunt woman?
Yeah, something happened to somebody.
Yeah, man. It was Mila Jovovich, her stunt lady, okay, while she was fucking filming that scene. It's in the preview, too, of her riding down the lonesome highway on a fucking motorcycle, you know, and they're playing fucking Welcome to the Jungle and shit. Okay, like, at one point, she's, like, riding towards the camera, which is on a crane, and she's supposed to ride straight at it, and then the crane at the very last possible second, like, pulls up.
Yeah.
Okay? Only the crane didn't pull up, so she just fucking ran headfirst into it.
Yeah.
And it, like, fucked her up beyond belief. Okay? And if you read the list of injuries that this woman sustained, because she didn't fucking die, but if you read the list, you're almost like, maybe she should have. Okay? There is this fucking laundry list of injuries that she suffered, and in the middle of it, dude, is this degloved face.
Good God.
What?
Yeah. Her face fucking separated, like her face meat, like separated from her skull.
Her face meat.
Oh, my God.
This is fucking awful, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I have to say about that? That's fucking awful, okay? And what I have to say about that is, this would not have happened to her if Mila Jovovich and that other douchebag were not making these stupid fucking Resident Evil movies.
Goddamn right.
And you know what? The whole goddamn... Dude, they made up a new character for her. What the fuck is that?
Yeah.
That's fucking ridiculous, man. Okay, now, they did this. The whole series is just a fucking ego trip for Mila Jovovich.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an action star.
Yeah.
Okay? What I can't wait for, because this one coming up is called Resident Evil, The Final Chapter. And there's even, like, messages in the movie theaters from her and the dude saying, like, oh, this is our final movie. We just want to thank everybody for not talking too much about that girl's degloved face.
Oh, my God.
Just pay no attention to the girl with a degloved face. Okay? They're talking like it's their last one. You know what I fucking really fucking hope happens? I hope this movie comes out, it comes and it goes, like all the others ever did, and then that series gets immediately rebooted.
Fuck yeah.
And, like, done properly, you know? And, like, they don't put fucking Alice in that series.
Totally.
Okay? And then fucking, you know, because you know what'll happen if that does happen? Mila Jovovich will, like, announce her intentions to, I'm ready to come in and be in it. if you guys want me. And then, like, no one returns her calls. Fuck that shit.
Yeah. Fucking Alice. Bunch of lasers down a hallway. Fuck that shit.
Dumbass shit. And then they fucking turn it into Mad Max and shit. Resident Evil, Fury Road.
Jesus.
You know, in that preview, there's like a fucking dragon flying around.
Like
Yep.
a zombie dragon?
Yeah, of course. Well, it's got to be a zombie dragon, right? Something big with wings is fucking flapping around in the desert. Fucking. I get pissed. So that's what grinds my gears.
Well, all the other characters, all the main characters from the Resident Evil series, they're all like side characters to this one.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, she has hijacked the whole Resident Evil franchise to be like, hey, everybody, look at me. You know,
That's all she's got now.
yeah, check this out. Here's the thing. There's something happening in that preview, and the guy's like, there's some dude, he's like, oh God, what are we gonna do? You know, we gotta kill these zombies or something like that. And then fucking Mila Jovovich turns around and she like cocks a shotgun or some shit, and she goes, this is what I do. Like, it's just like the whole franchise is just a fucking excuse for scenes like that. Little I love me scenes.
Yeah.
It's fucking stupid, man. And that's all I have to say about that.
How many of those movies are there?
I don't fucking know, man.
There's like 18 of them.
God,
Yeah.
I saw the first one. Even when the first one came out and the hype about it, I was like, saw it? Oh, fuck. That was disappointing.
Yeah, it's like Resident Evil Retribution, Resident Evil Convolution, Resident Evil Domination, Resident Evil Masturbation. Fucking.
Resident Evil, degloved face.
There's a happy ending of that. Her face has been regloved, and I'm sure she got a sizable severance package.
Yeah.
I'm sure she degloved a lot of dollars from that movie company.
Too bad she couldn't count it with her one arm.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah, she got like fucking, she like had to amputate limbs and shit.
Are you sure she lost an arm?
I know she lost something.
Okay. All right.
We gotta look this up. I don't give a shit.
Who the hell is that guy who couldn't... Oh, God damn it, get the crane up, get the crane up!
Oh, it is all that director's fault. Literally.
Yeah.
You know, but the shot was probably Mila Jovovich's idea. Sorry. Mila Jovovich, degloved face.
Fuck.
What the fuck is that?
I hope they listen to this.
Assholes. I hope that girl lost an arm now. I hope I'm not wrong. All right, I don't hope she lost an arm. Never mind.
We hope you're doing well.
You know what movie I love?
What do you love, Chris?
It's one of my first rebellious teenager kind of movies. It was made in 1995, and I think it's time to recommend it.
It's time.
Yeah. Desperado.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
Yes.
Remember that shit?
Oh, my God.
Antonio Banderas came center stage with
Yeah,
that
man.
movie.
Yeah.
Oh, my
He was
God.
just the gay guy from Philadelphia before that.
Yep.
It's a sequel, but it doesn't have to be. It's kind of like a Evil Dead 2 kind of situation.
It's like,
Yeah.
It's a sequel to El Mariachi.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I love Desperado because Robert Rodriguez was still trying to make a good movie and not
Jacking off.
with the movies he loves. That's what he does now. With the whole Grindhouse thing that
Yeah.
happened. That
Sorry,
whole-
man. Planet Terror was good.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, fuck that.
All right. So he used to be a mariachi, but now his guitar case is full of guns, and he wants revenge on the guy that killed his girlfriend.
Yep.
So he rolls into this Mexican town and kicks some ass, right?
Fuck yeah.
Selma Hayek too.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Your beer tastes like piss. That's because we piss in it.
Every time he pours a beer from the tap, you hear a disgusting belch. Have you noticed that?
No.
Really?
Go back and watch it. It's
All right.
every time he pours one, it's one cerveza? It's it's disgusting sounding.
All right, quiet. Do it again. So yeah, everyone, go see Desperado. If you've already seen it, see it again.
Shit, I will. I'm remembering all this stuff from it, and I'm having good nostalgia. Good
Yeah.
nostalgia. There's one scene that always got me in that.
Okay, hey.
Sorry.
I am so sorry to interrupt you, but this just in.
Mm.
Resident Evil crew member is crushed to death by a Hummer falling on top of him. Days after a stunt woman revealed she will have her left arm amputated following an on-set accident.
Oh my God!
A South African man has died after being crushed by a Hummer in an accident on the set of the new Resident Evil film. This is I don't even know what to say.
Oh my God. Final chapter. Ever. Don't make any more movies. Ever.
I wonder if they were going to call it Final Chapter before all this happened. Oh shit, quick. Change the name. It was going to be called Resident Evil Forever.
The thing about Desperado.
Yeah.
The most fantastic fuck you I've ever heard in movie history. Because people can say it, enunciate it, and give it different spin
Yeah.
in movies any way they can. Antonio Banderas did it the best ever in film history in Desperado.
All right, let's hear it.
The bar is full of dead people, and he's going for guns, and so is the bartender. And they keep on clicking empty magazines on each other.
Oh, I
Click,
remember that.
click, click.
Oh, shit.
Click, click.
Yeah. And the bartender finally gets one that's got a couple of rounds in it, and they're fighting over it. And then he just grabs his head and snaps his fucking neck. And when he does it, he just goes, "Fuck you!"
Oh, yeah.
And
I remember that.
Yeah, that was good.
it is fantastic.
You are right.
Best fuck you in movie history.
Good job, Antonio.
Mm-hmm.
One of my other favorite fuck yous in film, Total Recall.
Ooh.
When he is going to pick up the case, okay, at the beginning of the movie, when his buddy calls him on the video phone, and he's like, yeah, I'm down here at the phone. And he holds a briefcase. He looks out the window. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Okay, and he sees the guy, like, waving at him. I'm down here, man. Get this case, and then do whatever. Blah, blah, blah. So then he has to, go downstairs, okay? Now, by the time he gets downstairs and out to the payphone, some other old woman has come and oh, found the briefcase and picked it up. She's walking away with it. She's going to go home and look for all the free shit inside. Yeah. And he starts having a fight with her. And he's like, Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's like, no, excuse me, this is my case. Blah, blah, blah. And she's like, I don't see your name on it. Oh, yeah. Okay. And he's like, excuse me, but I need it. And then he pulls it away. And once he wrenches it out of her hand, she goes, fuck you, you asshole. And his response to that is to turn around and bow to her.
Because he's got a wet towel wrapped around his head. Like a Buddhist, just like... Mm.
I also love it when he's in the train.
That movie also has the best screw you.
Benny, screw you.
Oh, my God. Thank you, Arnold.
Hell yeah.
So many great moments.
All right. What'd you go see?
Jack Reacher. Never go back.
All right.
Yeah, man.
People are torn on the first one, but I love it.
Oh, yeah, me too.
The first one's kind of noirish and cheesy. He's got a lot of... Tom Cruise has a lot of dialogue that is kind of too quick and witty. You know what I mean?
No.
A lot of his lines are too perfect. But, yeah, I love the first movie.
In particular, that scene, that street fight scene. That's amazing.
I haven't seen it.
You've never seen Jack Reacher 1?
No.
Oh, man, that's a good movie.
Yeah, hey, Rick, say hello to your next movie franchise obsession. First, it was Jason Bourne. Next week, Jack Reacher.
Fucking coolest part in that street fight scene is he's like, you wanted this.
Yeah. You got to see that movie, Rick, especially just for that scene anyway. If anything, just for that scene. It's fucking great.
Good bad guy, too. Who's that bad guy? Werner Herzog.
Oh, the big bad guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought you were talking about
creepy motherfucker.
The second in command, type, the young guy who's his equal, but he's evil.
Not him.
Okay.
Well, Jack Reacher kind of came out around I had no doubt that it was going to be a good movie. I just didn't catch it because I was so busy watching...
Jason Bourne.
Nope. Live, Die, Repeat. Edge of Tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, man.
Oh, yeah. They're doing another one of those.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Now that was a good movie.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Anything happen in the theater?
Something did. All right, so I went to an early evening showing, and I guess this movie's been out for a week or two. There wasn't a whole lot of people there. But these two ladies came after the lights had already gone out, like the movie's getting ready to start. These two ladies come in and they sit in the block of seats next to mine. You know, I'm like, there's so many fucking empty seats. You gotta sit by me.
Yeah, and they get to pick the seats.
Yeah.
So they see that yours is occupied, and they're like, let's sit right next to him.
They weren't right next to me, okay? They were one seat away. But still. Now they sit down, and this lady starts unpacking her purse for all the food that they're going to eat. And obviously they've brought a bunch of stuff from home. Mm-hmm. And she pulls out like this little bottle of like wine, okay, and sets it in her fucking drink holder. Mm-hmm. And then she starts unpacking their fucking picnic, which is all made of like crackers and pate and fucking cheese. And guys, smoked salmon.
Oh, yeah?
You know how I know it was smoked salmon?
You smell that shit.
The whole goddamn movie long.
Oh,
And, yeah, okay. Throughout.
not good.
I could
movie
smell
neighbors.
this fucking shit. Like at first I was like, ooh, smoked salmon. Wait, no, Dad. I'm going to smell that this whole time.
Oh, shit.
Like, and I could just tell that they were probably European ladies, you know, I don't know. But then also, I don't know what this lady was eating throughout the entire film, but she was like, just imagine just sitting there like crunching or popping open sunflower seeds over and over and over, like one at a time. But it was something else. I don't know. I just imagine she was like eating shrimp tails or something because the fucking smell was so strong.
Oh.
But it was like the whole damn time. She's just like popping shit in her teeth.
Oh.
Yeah. It made me lose concentration a few times. Fucking eating smoked salmon. Okay, yeah, but check this out. She starts unpacking the purse, right? And I'm like, I'm starting to smell, you know, the food. And then I just like look over to see what the hell she's doing. And she like keeps stopping and looking at me. Like, you better not tell. Like, I better stop or he's gonna like know what I'm doing. Like, I could smell it. Jesus. All right. What do you think, guys? We ready?
I was born ready.
Jack Reacher, Never Go Back on Movies with Ron.
Fuck yeah.
Movie begins with a bunch of police lights, okay, shining through the streets. And we see that there are 5 or 6 dudes laying on the ground outside of a diner. Okay. They've all been beat to shit.
Yeah.
This movie picks up in the aftermath of the kind of scene that we were just talking about in the first movie.
Okay.
Like, that has just happened in this one. And, you know, this cop shows up. He's like, what the hell's going on, right? And then there's like a witness, and he's like, yeah, hey, no, it was a fight, you know? And all these guys, all of them, they were all beaten by this one guy in like seconds. Okay? I mean, it was amazing. The guy's like all shook up just from watching it. And the guy's like, where'd he go? And he's like, oh, he's still here. He's in there. And the camera looks into the diner, and he's just like sitting at the diner counter. Cop goes in, and he's like, turn around, mister. You know, he's got his gun out and shit. And the sheriff goes in there with him, and he's like, yeah, you know, he's giving him shit. And he's like, yeah, you know, you're looking at so-and-so many years after those boys you beat, you know, get well enough to testify on you. And then we see in front of the guy at the counter, and it's Tom Cruise, Jack Reacher. And he just turns around and he goes, 2 things are going to happen in the next 90 seconds. 1, that phone is going to ring. And 2, you're going to be in these cuffs. Oh, yeah, because they put him in cuffs.
Okay.
You're going to be in these cuffs, and you're going to be on your way to prison. And the guy's like, what the hell are you talking about? That is some prophecy you got there. And then the phone rings. And he's like, oh, shit. Okay. And then Jack is like, it's just going to keep ringing. Okay. Now, in the diner's totally empty, but off in the distance, inside the diner, you see like 3 or 4 Hispanic ladies sitting at a table, and they're all like whimpering like they've been crying. So the sheriff is going over to answer the phone, and Jack Reacher's like, yeah, on that phone, that's going to be Major Turner. She's going to be informing you that, you know, you and your boys out there on the ground, yeah, you guys fucked up, you know, operating on land that's owned by the U.S. government, you know, and kidnapping illegals. And then he points to the ladies at the table, and he goes, and selling them. Mm-hmm. And so you're like, oh, shit, sheriff.
Yeah.
And then sheriff, like, answers the phone, And then he looks over, and then all these other police cars start showing up, and they're military police. And then the sheriff, like, he knows he's totally fucked. He just looks at Jack and he goes, "Who the hell are you?" And Jack just goes, "I'm the guy you didn't count on." So then he's hitchhiking. He hitches a ride back to his little shithead motel. So he's in his hotel room and he calls Major Turner. And it turns out it's a chick. And it's that girl who played Samuel L. Jackson's second in command in the Avengers.
Kobe Smulders.
Kobe Smulders. Good job, Kobe.
Kobe, not Colby.
Good job, Kobe. So he's talking to her on the phone, and he's like, "Yeah, you know." She's like, "Yeah, thanks for tipping me off to that sheriff." And he's like, "Yeah, thank you for helping me out of that jam like you did." And we don't ever get to find out what that was. So she's like, "Yeah, you know, he used to be a military policeman," and she's like taking over his desk. She's like, "Yeah, why'd you leave?" You know, and he's like, "Oh, I don't know. I just woke up one morning and the uniform didn't fit, if you know what I mean." And she's like, "You know, there's this big dent in your desk here." And then they show it, and there is a huge dent. And she's like, "You know, people around here say you made it with some guy's head. Is that true?" And he's like, "Yeah, I guess." I don't fucking know. I don't remember what he said. So throughout these conversations that he's having with her, because he has a few of them, it just shows shots of him like hitchhiking. And then he ends up asking Turner out to dinner. And she's like, "Yeah, you know, maybe. I don't know. I'm trying to decide if I would like you in person." And he's like all flirty with her on the phone and shit. So he ends up going there. He goes back to D.C. So he does go back. All right. And he goes to the command, and he's going up to the office to see her. And she had this assistant named like Sergeant Leach, this little lady who had been talking to him on the phone. She'd be like, "I have Major Turner on the phone for you." Shit like that. He goes into the office, Major Turner, and there's this guy named Colonel Morgan. He's sitting at the desk, and he's like, "I'm sorry. She's been relieved of duty." Yeah. And he's like, "Wait, what?" He's like, yeah, she's been arrested. For what? For espionage. But, you know, is there anything I can help you with? And then Jack Reacher's just like, "No." And he leaves. He's all like upset because he liked her.
Yeah.
So then he's talking to Sergeant Leach, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm sorry. I really wanted to warn you, but, you know, I couldn't." And he's like, "Why?" She's like, "I was ordered not to." And he's like, "Well, always follow orders, okay? Now, who's her lawyer?" And she's like, I'm not allowed to say." And he's like, "Oh, okay. So who was your DI in boot camp?" And she says some name. And he's like, "Well, if he was in some legal trouble, what lawyer would you recommend to him?" And she's like, "Oh, I get what you're doing." So she tells him the name of the lawyer. Okay. He goes and talks to this guy. And remember, he's a JAG. You know, everybody's military.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, Major Turner's in trouble. You know, fucking, what do we do? What's wrong? What'd she get in trouble for?" He's like, "I can't talk to you. And she actually left explicit orders for no visitation from you." And he's like, "What the hell? Why?" And he's like, "Probably because you're a piece of shit." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Yeah, you know, all kinds of shit you've done. And, you know, you're a deadbeat dad." And he's like, "What? No, I don't have any kids." And he's like, "Yeah, that's what they all say." And then he like hands him this dossier, and he's like, "Yeah, this lady, Candace Dutton, you know, she's got a daughter, and she has filed a paternity suit against you through the military. You know, yeah, this is your daughter right here." And he gives him the picture. He ends up stealing the picture. Lawyer's just a total asshole to him, and he ends up fucking leaving. He says to the lawyer, like, "Let me know when you remember what that uniform stands for." So then he's sitting there in an IHOP, and he's looking at the photo, and he's wondering if this is his kid. And he's being followed by two thugs who are out in their little SUV watching him through the window. And then they're talking, and then they look over, and he's gone. And they're like, "Wait, dude, where is he?" "Well, you were supposed to be watching him. I don't know." And then there's just a knock on the window, and it's him.
Yeah.
He knocks on the window, and then he just punches through it and punches the driver out cold. Grabs the gun out of the driver's jacket, points it at the passenger, and he's like, "I don't like being followed." He pulls the guy's wallet out and looks at his insurance registration or something, and sees that it says Parasource Incorporated, and then he just walks away. And then it cuts to him tailing this girl from the photo. like, trying to figure out if she's his daughter or not. And he's watching her, and she goes into a convenience store, and she's walking around. She's kind of stealing some stuff, like food and crap. And then she walks by, no shit, a giant display for Fireball. Ladies and gentlemen, ignite the night on Movies with Ron. So they sponsor Jack Reacher. So she's stealing shit, and then she also pays for a couple things, and she leaves. And then he walks out to follow her again, and he can't see her. He can't see her. And then he just hears this girl say, "I don't like being followed." And you're like, oh, shit, that's his daughter.
Yeah.
And he turns around. She was like, she had gone out of the store and then hid to like catch him looking for her. And she's like, yeah, that was you earlier on the sidewalk. That was you in the market, Fuck you. What are you doing, man? And he's like, you're a thief. And she's like, yeah, well, my life sucks. So, fuck you. And she assumes that he's like wanting sex from her.
Yeah.
Because she's like in the foster care system and she's like grown up on the streets. Her mom is in like rehab and shit. So she's like, yeah, screw you. I don't live with her anymore if you're looking for her. And he's like, well, where do you live? And then she just flips him off and leaves. At that point, we see he is being followed again by somebody else who turns out to be the second in command bad guy of the movie. He's like taking photos of him. We never learn his name. He's credited as the Hunter.
Okay.
Taking pictures of him. The next day, the lawyer actually ends up calling and meeting with Jack, and he's like, you're right. You were right. He tells him about these two soldiers that Major Turner was in command of that were murdered, and then she ended up taking the fall for it. Somebody said that they found information about their murders on her hard drive at home. And he's like, you gotta get her out. Mm-hmm. And the lawyer's like, I'm gonna try. And then it just cuts to later that night, that lawyer being tortured by the shadowy guy that was following Jack Reacher. And he's like, what the hell did you tell Jack Reacher? He's like, nothing, man. And then it cuts back to Jack Reacher's motel room, and he's being picked up by another MP. And he's taking him back to command. And his name is Epson. Okay, and he's like, yeah, you don't remember me, do you? I was a such and such, rank, and you passed me over for captain because, you said I was too eager to jump to conclusions. And then Jack Reacher goes, well, yeah, sorry. I'm sure I can jump to conclusions. So, sorry. He's like, yeah, whatever. Fuck you. They take him back to command, and he walks into the office of Colonel Morgan, who's the guy earlier. And he's like, yeah, were you inquiring about Major Turner? Fuck you, and trying to talk to her lawyer? And he's like, yeah. Well, that lawyer's dead. And then he looks over at this other chick that's standing there, and he's like, oh, I get it. You're my lawyer. And she's like, yes, sir. And he's like, where was this lawyer killed? In his home. So off base? Yeah. So this is a civilian matter. You need to transfer me to the DC police right now. Blah, blah, blah. And then the Colonel Morgan is like, are you familiar with Article 17? Or whatever. And he's like, top secret level soldiers like yourself are subject to being recalled in the event of such and such emergencies or something like that. So, welcome back to the army. And he's like, shit. So then he's being taken to some military prison. Okay, and he's meeting with his attorney. And she's talking to him, and then he looks out the window and he sees those same two thugs from before pull up in a car, and they're getting out, coming into the prison. And he was getting all nasty with his lawyer, and she was like, yeah, fuck you, man. You give me some proof that you didn't do this, then, I'll defend the hell out of you. But don't be an asshole to me. And he's like, I'm so sorry. I have low blood sugar. And she's like, what do you mean? I didn't eat breakfast. Could you maybe go to the officer's mess and get me a sandwich or something like that? And she's like, sure. So she leaves. She leaves her briefcase there. He digs into her briefcase, pulls out her keys and all of her cash, which is this giant wad of 20s. Mm-hmm. And then he knocks on the door to that MP, Epson, and he's like, yeah, we're done here, man. You can take me to my cell. So that guy's taking him to his cell. And as he's doing so, Jack Reacher is memorizing the hallways. He's taking photographs with his mind.
Yeah.
Gets into his room, and before Epson closes the door, Jack Reacher just turns around, beats the shit out of him, and takes him out, and steals his jacket and his beret. Puts it on, so now he's in disguise. So then he sees those thugs, and they are going up to Major Turner's cell. This guy's like, Major, these gentlemen are here to transfer you. You need to go with them. And she's like, who the fuck are these guys? They're not even military. Then Jack Reacher just comes in and kicks the shit out of them. And then the guard is like holding them both at gunpoint, him and Turner. And he's like, what the fuck? What the fuck's going on? And then she's like, she tries to talk to the soldier. She's like, listen, soldier, I'm here, against my will and, without cause. So, and then Jack Reacher just turns around and tases him. He's like, we don't have time for this shit. We gotta go. So then they're escaping the military prison. And he picks up the keys and he says to Turner, he's like, all right, they're running out into the parking lot. And he's like, what kind of car would my lawyer be driving? And she just goes, a black sedan. And they run out in the parking lot, and it is nothing but black sedans. So he holds up the key fob, and then he goes, bloop, bloop, so he can see which car it was. At that point, all the other MPs from the prison are flooding out to come and get him, so they got to keep running past. And one of them is like, the food truck, because there's a big food truck over there, and it's driving away. So they run towards it. And then all the MPs are like, oh my God, they're in the food truck. Let's go get them. So then there's the giant fucking chase down the city streets. And all of these MP cars, they just swarm this food truck. And they pull it over and they're like, get them out of there. And they open them up and they're not in there. And then behind all of those MPs, you see another MP car pull up and then turn and go down a side street. So that's all they did, was they just led him away with that, and then they stole one of their cars. Yeah. And she's like, were those guys really there to kill me? And he's like, yeah, man, totally. So she's like, all right, well, you know what? Thank you. And then we see Espen, and he's being talked to by Colonel Morgan, and he's got a big old black eye. And Colonel Morgan's like, yeah, good job, man. Real good job. And he's like, yeah, well, his ass is mine now. So then he sends out an all points bulletin alert for Jack Reacher and Major Turner, blah, blah, blah. This is what they look like, and everybody needs to be looking for him. Holy shit. And he's like running the situation room. So then Jack and Turner, they get into a cab. She's like, I need to check my email because that's where the evidence of that shit is that they found. I don't know. My two men were killed by an army issue pistol. So I know this is bullshit. I'm being set up. Like, they were killed in Afghanistan, and apparently they were looking for a big weapons cache. After all these weapons were decommissioned and shit. So there's some kind of espionage or conspiracy going on with that. She looks at the cabbie's hat. And she's like, yeah, I like your hat. And then it shows her and him in a fucking internet cafe, and she's wearing the hat. So she's trying to be all in disguise. So then Colonel Morgan calls the shadowy torture dude, and he tells him to go follow Jack Reacher. He needs to find him. And he's like, yeah, she just checked her email from this internet cafe. Go get her. So he's staking it out, and then they leave, and he's following them. And then Jack Reacher's like, the guy who's following us, he's not a cop. He's a pro. Where is he? He's 10 paces back. He's in a black jacket, blah, blah, blah. So cops are starting to show up. You hear the sirens and shit, and they just run. They run into a restaurant. They go into the kitchen, and they start yelling at all the staff and, like, throwing things around. They're like, get out, get out. All the staff leaves, and then they lock the doors, and then they just hide, and they get ready for this guy who's following them. And they just, like, set up a fucking... getting ready for this big standoff they're going to have with him.
Yeah.
And, yep, he comes in. Comes in real quiet. And, yep, they start fighting. And that's where we see Major Turner. She's a little ass kicker herself.
Yeah.
Okay, she starts helping out Jack Reacher. This guy gets the jump on Jack, and he beats him up, and then kind of knocks him out. He's all punch drunk and shit, and that's when Major Turner takes over. But the guy kicks her ass too. At that point, the actual cops come in, and they're like, military police? No, he's like, I'm military police. Don't. And they're like, put the weapon down. And he's like, okay, I'm putting it down. My ID is in my pocket. So just check it out, will you? The cop's coming up to get his ID out of his pocket. And then he just grabs the cop by his hand that's holding the cop's gun. And then he just grabs the cop's arm and twists it backwards and shoots the cop behind him with that cop's own gun. And then he kills them both. And then everybody escapes. Jack and Turner are on a bus, and that guy's just like walking off into the crowd. Then they're at a motel, and they're sharing a room. And Kobe Smulders is topless. She's wearing a bra, but she's just like, she's a tough bitch.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit, taking my shirt off. So then they're talking, and then Jack Reacher's like, he takes his shirt off. It's like, oh, I get it. Now they're going to have sex. But they don't.
Yeah.
And they're just like talking about the espionage going on. It was like no reason for her shirt to be off, or his for that matter. And he goes and gets in the shower later, but when he does, she's looking through his stuff and she finds the pic of his supposed daughter and then the registration with the Parasource company name on it. At that point, we see the big boss of this enemy organization, Parasource, which is like this. It's like a Blackwater security type outfit, private security in fucking Afghanistan and shit. And he calls the shadow guy, the hunter, and he's like, "You better make this shit go away, motherfucker." He's like, "I'm on it." Then it cuts to the next morning, and Jack comes back into the hotel room, and he's got some new clothes for Turner, and she's like, "Oh, these are all the right sizes. You've got good eyes." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm pretty good like that." Oh, man. At this point, the smell of smoked salmon is just killing me. She's eating all loud and slow. Jack Reacher says to Kobe Smulders, "It's time for us to stop being hunted, and we need to do the hunting." And they call Colonel Morgan. And they're like, "Yeah, I don't know what your role is in this. It's probably money, but, why don't you tell us what your role is?" He's like, "I don't know what you're talking about. Whatever, blah, blah, blah." And then it turns out, oh, surprise, they were calling him from inside his own house. So, because he was just like sitting at his desk in his house.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Jack Reacher's behind him, got him in a headlock and shit. They use his email, his security password and stuff to get into her email, and she prints out some photos and shit and some emails. One of the photos she prints out is surveillance photos of Jack Reacher talking to this weird little girl outside of a convenience store. So it's like, oh, shit. And Jack freaks out, so they leave. And they call Sergeant Leach, and they ask her to investigate this company called Parasource. Then they finally find the foster home where this girl lived. This girl's name is Sam. They walk inside, and the foster father is dead, and so is the foster mother. And huge signs of all this struggle and stuff. There's blood all over the walls. And then he can see the girl's jacket out on the fire escape. And, it shows him in his mind, deducing what had happened. And she escapes out of the fire escape, and then the hunter, goes after her. Mm-hmm. So then he, turns around to leave. Then he, looks down, and he sees a sketchbook. And it's got all these really great sketches in it. And he's looking at it, and it's all done in, this black, whatever the fuck people sketch with. I don't know what it is.
Charcoal?
Yeah, charcoal. And then he sees a bunch of it on the floor. He's looking, and he's just looking at the window. And then he's looking down at the black shit on the floor. He's looking at the sketchbook. And he looks over at the cabinet, and there's some black fingerprints on it. And he walks over to the cabinet, and he opens it up. And then the girl jumps out. So she had fooled the hunter. So they take her with them, and they're all in a car, and she's like, "You fucking kidnapped me, you motherfuckers." They're like, No, we're trying to help you. That guy was trying to kill you. And she's like, "Why?" And he doesn't say. And then they're like, "How long has it been since you've eaten?" She's like, "I don't fucking know. I'm a street urchin. I never eat." I'm like, all right, we got to get her some food. So Turner is doing that while he's talking to her in the car, and he's like, "Yeah, how long have you been drawing, She's like, "I don't fucking know." And he's like, "Listen, you've been in a shock. Your body's pumping adrenaline. It'll be a while before you calm down." So then she gives her the food, and then she's like, "I can't eat. I'm pumping adrenaline." She's just being like a bitchy teen.
Yeah.
So then he turns around and he's like, "Do you want to live?" And she's like, "Yes." And he's like, "Then you got to do everything we say." And then she's like, "You are very intense." Then we cut to the hunter, and he is in Colonel Morgan's house. And he's like, "Yeah, so, what'd you tell Jack Reacher?" And he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." He's like, "Yeah, what'd you tell him, when he was here earlier today?" And Colonel Morgan is like, "Fuck, you watching me now? Fuck you. We hired you to clean up this damn mess, and you fucked that up." So then he's like, "Yeah." And he looks over at the phone, the hunter, and he's like, "Did Jack Reacher touch this?" And he's like, "Yeah." "Why?" He's like, "So his fingerprints are on this?" And he's like, "Yes." And then he picks it up, and he beats Colonel Morgan to death with it. So then we cut to Jack and Turner, and they have taken Sam to Turner's old, private prep school to, hide her out, because she's, really good friends with the headmistress, and I guess they have that kind of arrangement. So she's going to hide in this private school. It's really fucking nice. There's people like doing drawing classes out in the courtyard and stuff, and you can tell she's like, man, I wish this was my life. Mm-hmm. She's sitting here, she's talking to all these rich girls, and this girl's like, oh yeah, my parents are going to take me shopping when we go to Paris next year, blah, blah, blah. She's like, yeah, that's great. So then she pulls out her phone and she starts texting. And then Jack, who is talking with the headmistress with Turner, he sees it, goes over, and he's like, come on, come with me now. And they leave, and he's like, you told me you didn't have a fucking phone. Fuck you, what the fuck are you doing? They can find us with this shit. Now we gotta leave, dumbass. So they have to leave. They drive away, and he throws the phone out of the window, and it breaks into a bunch of pieces. Then Sergeant Leach calls them, and she's like, yeah, Parasource. They're this private security organization. They're in some financial trouble, blah, blah, blah. And I found out the name of one of their employees named Perdone. He is the last person that talked to your two soldiers before they were killed. So, you know, whatever that's worth. And Jack Reacher's like, we need to find them. We need to find him, Perdone. So they're like, okay, we gotta find this guy. And then they found out that he lived in New Orleans. So they got to get there, but how are they going to get there? They need plane tickets and shit. They need ID, and how are they going to pay for all this crap? And then the girl pulls out the wallet of one of the rich girls that she lifted it from, and she's like, "Oh yeah, you know, my dad loves me so much. He paid for a trip to New Orleans before we go to Paris next year." And they're like, "Oh, look at you, crafty little girl." So she has turned out to be very resourceful, and throughout this movie, when shit like that happens, Jack Reacher's like looking at her. And then we see that hunter guy. He's on their tail, and they're driving away, and he like walks over and he picks up the broken phone and shit. So they're at the airport, and they have to like steal an ID card for Jack, and they have to pick some guy who kind of looks like him. And then he just like fucking pickpockets him. Then he goes up to the security guy at the airport. That guy looks at the ID and then looks at Tom Cruise, and it is obviously not him. Tom Cruise just goes like, yeah, it's me. And then the guy's just like, have a nice flight. Like, he just doesn't care. So they take off. It turns out it's Sam's first time flying, and he's like, are you going to puke? She's like, no, totally. And she's like, oh, she's all freaking out. He gives her a puke bag, and then the plane jolts again, and she grabs his hand. Mm-hmm. And then he's got a little moment there, too, where he's like, oh, geez, I might be a dad. So she's sketching and shit. Jack is asleep. And she's talking with Turner about her job. And she's like, so you get to give orders to all these guys and they have to do everything you say? And she's like, well, I mean, you know, yeah, I guess. She's like, yeah, but like if any of them got out of hand, you could like kick the shit out of them, right? You know moves like that? And she's like, yeah, I'm pretty good. She's like, will you please teach me some? And she's like, oh, yeah, totally. And then she's like, Sam's like, so is Mr. Reacher, is he your boyfriend? And she's like, well, no, you know. And then we see that Jack is actually awake. And he's like, I wish I was her boyfriend. She's like, yeah, you know, my dad was in the military. Well, how do you know? Well, that's what my mom said. I've never met him, though. But apparently he's like this big hero, and he's a total asshole. And then you're like, uh-oh, that's Jack. Then this big guy walks by them, and Jack Reacher looks up at him. He sees him pass by, and he's like, oh, Jesus. So like he can just tell that he's a thug, you know? He gets up, he picks up a bottle of water, and he walks over to where that guy was sitting, and he sits down next to that guy's partner, and he just sits down in his chair, and the guy's like looking at him like, what the fuck? And he just goes, you know what? You know what gives you guys away? And the guy's just looking at him, and he goes, it's the haircuts, man. You guys all have the same haircuts. You guys all like go to the same barber or some shit, and then he just knocks the guy out. Then he goes back to the bathroom, picks the lock somehow, opens it up, and beats that guy up, knocks him out. There's blood all over the walls and shit. He shuts the door. Then this old man is coming to go to the bathroom. And he's like, my friend is feeling very sick, so you might want to use the other one. So the plane lands, and Jack takes the phone of one of the thugs, and he just calls the last number that the phone had in it. And the hunter says, hello? And he's like, yeah, you know, you sent your assholes after me. I don't like being followed, man. I told you guys that. So, you know, fuck you. And I'm going to New Orleans. Are you going to come to New Orleans too? And then it shows where the hunter is. And he is in New Orleans at the airport waiting and watching all of the other passengers get off. Yeah. So Jack Reacher and the two girls that he's with are about to walk out the door and see him. And then Jack Reacher, like, figures out that that's what's happening, like, at the last second. His instincts kick in. And then they run out an emergency exit, and they run out onto the tarmac. So they're running across the tarmac, and then the hunter and all of his thugs are, like, running through the airport, and they're all watching each other through the windows. So there's all this chase music, dun dun dun, while they're all running through the airports and shit. And they end up losing them. And then Sam is like, you know what? What the hell is going on here? Like, why are we doing all this? And Jack Reacher's like, you know what? At this point, the less you know, the better. The safer you are. And she's like, no, man, fuck that. And Turner's like, she deserves to know. And he's like, they think you're my daughter. And she's like, what the fuck? He's like, yeah. You know, they want her dead, which means they want me dead, which means they want you dead. And she's like, you're not my father. Fuck you. And he's like, yeah, well, your mother filed a paternity suit with the army, you know, naming me as your dad. So she thinks so. Mm-hmm. And the daughter's like, oh, shit. Okay, now I'm all weirded out. They go and they check into a hotel in New Orleans. And she's like, so are we going to get a DNA test? And he's like, yeah, well, we're a little busy right now, but, you know, maybe sometime. She's like, I got to tell you something, man, but you're going to be angry. I actually made my mom file that paternity suit. You know, I was just trying to help her get some money so maybe she could turn her life around. And Jack's like, oh, shit. I might have been traveling the world being a military badass when, like, my family needed me. And she's like, so this is all my fault, you know. Now you think I'm your daughter, so you're worried about protecting me. And he's like, yeah, so? She's like, you know, it'd be easier if I wasn't around. Maybe I should just leave. And he's like, yeah, where are you going to go? So then it cuts to them in the hotel room, and Major Turner and Sam are in the bedroom on the bed, and they're talking like girls, you know, having girl talk, girl time. And then he shows up with food, and she's like, oh, Sam's like, thank God, I'm so starving. She takes the food out of his hand and then just slams the door on him. So he's like, oh, that's nice. So he's like sitting on the bed in the other room, like eating fast food. And then Turner comes out, and she sits down and she like munches on one of his fries, and she's like, oh, look at this. It's our dinner date. And he's like, yeah, I got the champagne. It's still chilling. So then they figure out where Perdone lives, and one of them has to go find him. And Jack Reacher's like, whoa, one of us needs to stay and watch the girl. And she's like, oh, I guess that should be me? What, because I'm a woman? And he's like, no, you know. She's like, he's like, I'm not a babysitter. And she's like, you think I know how to do that shit too? And he's like, yeah. He's about to leave, and Major Turner actually balls her fist up at him. And then he like bristles up, and he gets all fucking serious, and he just like looks at her, and he's like, that is a bad idea. And then she doesn't do it. So then he leaves. He goes and he finds Perdom's wife, and he's like, yeah, I'm trying to find him. I'm from the military police. And she's like, you know what? He's a fucking junkie. He hangs out wherever there's fucking dope. And he's like, can I have a picture? She's like, yeah, here, take it. Fucking burn it for all I care. At this point, it cuts to Jack, and he's walking down the street, and he realizes he's being followed by like 4 or 5 dudes. So at this point, he just like stops, and he's looking at them all, and they're all looking at him, and then he just turns and goes into this building, okay, this abandoned building, and he walks in there, and he is just surrounded by all these guys. And he's like, well, you guys followed me in here, and that was a mistake. And then one of the guys says, yeah, and you thought we weren't going to be watching Perdome's wife, and that was a mistake. You know, the guy's like, all right, toss me your phone. So Jack Reacher tosses it to him, but in midair, fucking Jack jumps over and like beats the dude in the face or something. This is supposed to be the equivalent of that cool street fight in the first movie. Yeah. And grabs his gun, fucking shoots a couple of the guys with it while it's still in the other guy's hand and shit, and takes them all out. And then the hunter shows up, and Jack grabs the last thug and turns around and uses him as a human shield. So then they're both behind cover, and they're talking a little bit, and the hunter is like, fuck you, man. I'm going to kill that little girl of yours. And then Jack goes all fucking mad and shit, and he just walks out of the cover, and he just starts firing at the guy. He walks towards him, but by the time he gets there, to whatever he was hiding behind, which is now full of bullet holes, he turns, and the guy's gone. He gets back to the hotel, and in the hotel, Sam and Turner are like training. They're practicing. She has now shown Sam some like self-defense maneuvers. Yeah. And that's what they're doing. And Sam is like, look, Jack. And then she does this disarming move that Turner showed her, like what to do if some terrorist is holding you hostage with a gun.
Yeah.
Like holding you with a gun to your head. So she does this shit where she, disarms her. She pushes the gun away and then like punches her in the face or something like that. She's like, what do you think? And then Jack Reacher goes, I think that if that is the last move you have left, I'll assume that you are already dead. And they're like, wow, fuck you. And then he like walks away. He's all pissed off. Cuts to Espen, and he's like just talking to other police, and he's, you can tell he's just searching for Jack and Turner. It cuts back to the other hotel room that they're in, and Jack and Turner are arguing. They're arguing like husband and wife.
Yeah.
And they're like, what the fuck? What do we do? And she's like, they killed my men. I want them more. However bad you want them, I want them more. I should have been the one to go. And he's like, yeah, well, maybe. At this point, the lady next to me lets out a quiet, gross burp. Like, bae. She was trying to be quiet, but I heard that shit. Anyway, they're talking to her. We're fucking yelling, We need the kid because we got to go. Go wake her up. And then Turner looks at Jack and she's like, hey, what if she is your daughter for real, dude? And he's like, well, then I should have been there 15 years ago. Should have been there for the past 15 years. They open up the door and Sam is gone. They start freaking out. And then she actually shows back up. She's like, oh, sorry, I was trying to help. You said that the guy was a junkie, so I went around and I started asking drug addicts and shit like that. And they're like, what the fuck? You realize how dangerous that shit was? The girl's like, no, it's cool. If I ever get into trouble with thugs and shit, I just go and I just attack the strongest guy. And they're like, what? And she's like, yeah, here's the thing. All those other thugs, they'll all hurt a girl, but not the big, huge, strong ones. Those big, huge, strong ones, they always got like a little sister or something like that. So they always feel sorry for me, and then they always usually actually take care of me. As soon as she says that, like, Turner doesn't understand and she's still all pissed off, but Jack like looks at her and he's like, damn, this is my daughter. And there's this like tender moment where he's fucking like just staring at her. Like, she is so fucking street smart. She's a mini-me. So then we got Jack and Turner, and they're out looking for Perdome. And they're looking at this warehouse where all these junkies live and shit like that. And Jack is like, yeah, I got some money here for so-and-so Perdome. I'm trying to give him some money. And they're like, how much? And he's like, well, where is he? And then they find him. And they're like, yeah, fuck you. You work for Parasource. You talked to my 2 men before they were killed. What the hell is going on? Why were they killed? And he's like, I won't tell you. They'll kill me. So then Turner like roughs him up a little bit. And then he tells him a story about Parasource. They're running convoys, through fucking Afghanistan. And they're selling all these extra weapons to all these warlords out there. And then one day the warlords wanted to renegotiate their price. Parasource said, fuck that. And then one day their convoy just got lit up, okay, by all this fucking machine gun fire and shit. And it turned out that guy Perdome, he had been paid money by Parasource to not say anything about them selling all these decommissioned weapons. And they're like, what happened then? And then it shows the hunter show up, and he's the one who killed Turner's 2 men. So then they're like, well, where did all those transports go? And they're like, yeah, he's like, yeah, they ship them back to the States, every week. And he's like, oh, okay. And then they figure out somehow that, there's going to be a shipment coming in tonight at 10 o'clock. He's like, we need to get on one of those transports. We need to find out what's in those shipments. That's why people are being killed and shit. And then it shows Espen, and he's walking out of a diner with another military guy. And then this hooker in New Orleans comes up to him. She's like, hey, baby, you so hot. Come on. And he's like, no. You get away from me, please. And then she's like, oh, come on. That's your loss, motherfucker. But while she does that, while she's saying all that to him, she actually slipped a cell phone into his pocket. So then later, that cell phone rings, and he's like, hello, and he's talking to fucking Major Turner, and she's like, yeah, I have a witness here who can exonerate me of the charges. And he's like, yeah, well, put up or shut up. And she's like, yeah, okay, you can talk to the witness, all right, and I'll come in. Just look at the back of the phone, and then meet me there, and make sure that you're not followed. So he looks at the back of the phone, he finds an address, and it's some wharf that they're supposed to meet at. Now, somehow that phone conversation was listened in by Parasource, the big boss of Parasource, and then the hunter. And he's like, all right, you know where they're going. No witnesses. Do it. So then it cuts to the wharf, and we got Espen, and he shows up, And he finds Perdone there, and he's like, well, where the hell's Major Turner? And then the phone rings again, and she's like, yeah, he's got a story to tell you. Listen to him, He's like, yeah, okay, man, come on. Tell me what's really going on. What the fuck? And then this whole thing is intercut with like shots of Sam back in the hotel room, and she's in New Orleans, and it is around Halloween time, so New Orleans is about to have a big parade. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, Parasaurus just starts fucking shooting at Espen. They kill Perdone, the only witness, and they're trying to kill Espen. And then Jack jumps in and starts helping Espen. He's firing back and shit like that. Espen's like, I gotta call this in, I gotta call it in. And Jack's like, yeah, I'll cover you. So like they're helping each other, they're a team now. All this cool gunfire and shit. Jack shoots some fuel tanks, there's a big explosion, and then he is out of ammo. And he's picking up all these other guns, click, 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 and then he sees his pistol over there, out of cover, okay? If he runs out to get it, he's going to get shot. So he's like sitting there, and he's trying to think of what to do, and then across the alley, you see Major Turner, and she's like, I'm going to get the gun. She's going to help him out. So he picks up the police light from the military police car, and then he blinds the guy who's shooting at him with it.
Yeah.
And she grabs the gun and then kills the guy, who is not the hunter. He's just another thug. Espen's like, yeah, this is fucking great what you guys did, but, you're still criminals and shit. And they're like, yeah, you know what? It's cool. Take us into custody if you want, but get us on the tarmac in an hour. Get us on the tarmac with Parasaurus. We need to get into that shipment. That will prove everything. While they're riding there, they're talking about Parasaurus, and Major Turner is like, you know what? They're just running guns. How can they be making so much money from guns? One of these weapons, it goes for what, $5,000? That's not worth all this conspiracy shit that they're doing. Well, where is their money really coming from? At that point, Sam in her hotel room, she gets hungry and she calls down for room service. And they're like, yeah, you guys paid cash, so we can't do room service without a credit card. And the girl's like, oh, well, you know what? I have one here. So they run the credit card, and then Parasaurus boss is like, oh, she just used a credit card. Go get her. And the hunter is like, yep. I got her now. Then it cuts to them at the airfield, and they can see this plane has landed, and they're unloading all these giant crates. And Espen and Jack and Turner are like, we need to get in there. So she drives through the gate, and, they got other military police cars with them, like behind them. They're like making a raid. So then they pull over to the plane. All the cops jump out of their cars, and, they got guns drawn on all the Parasaurus guys. All the Parasaurus guys pull their guns, so they're all having this big giant standoff. And then the Parasaurus boss shows up, and he's like this old guy, but he's like pretty charismatic. He's like, whoa, guys, whoa, everybody, what's going on here? Stand down, guys, it's okay. These are good people. These are military policemen. We don't want to fuck with them. Stand down, stand down. So then Major Turner starts accusing him of selling weapons to insurgents and shit. And he's like, no, I haven't done any of that. We're shipping these weapons back here. And she's like, what is in those fucking crates? And he's like, he looks at one of his employees, like, what is on the manifest that's in that crate? He's like, 2 rocket launchers, sir. He's like, yeah, well, see, open it up. You'll find the rocket launchers. This is all perfectly legal. And they open it up, and it's 2 rocket launchers. She's like, open that one. Same thing. And then she's like, oh, open that one over there. And he's like, open it up. They open it up, same thing. So now she's looking like stupid.
Yeah.
Because they were expecting to find something else. So Turner's getting all upset, and then the Parasaurus boss is like, so-and-so, Espen, do your job and arrest this bitch. And then Jack is like, you know what? You're right. I was thinking, where the hell does their money come from? And he walks up to the crate, opens it up, finds a rocket launcher, picks it up, and then like holds it upside down, and then all of these bags of drugs fall out of it. And he's like, yeah, look at that. It's pure opium. So then they dump out all this fucking opium, and there's like 500 kilos and shit. This big giant mountain of drug bags. Jack's like, get him out of here. And the guy's like, you son of a bitch. And then we see the hunter, and he's at the hotel. He's going to get the girl. And he's threatening the concierge guy at the front desk, and he finds out where they are. So then Sam is running because she saw it happen, and she calls Jack. And Jack and Turner, they just speed away. So the guys are they're coming upstairs, and they're coming for Sam. They bust into the hotel room, and she actually escapes out onto the balcony, out onto the street where there's a giant parade happening. So now she's running through the parade. She's being chased by the hunter and all of his thugs. Jack and Turner show up in the hotel room. It is empty, and he's like, yeah, no, she's not here, man. She's out on the street. And then Turner's like, well, how do you know that? And then fucking Jack goes, because that's what I would do. And it's like a big moment. So the thugs are chasing Sam. She hides inside of a float. At that point, Jack actually picks that phone back up, and he calls the hunter again. And he's like, what the fuck are you doing? You want me? Come and get me. And then the hunter's like, oh, is that fear I hear in your voice, man? And he's like, nah, man, I'm ready to fucking kill you. It's excitement that you hear in my voice. And he's like, nah, nice try, buddy. But I have found the only way to hurt you, haven't I? Yeah, she's dead, bitch. And then Sam runs into some building, and all the thugs run in after her. And then they run up the stairs, go get her. They run up the stairs, and then she gets out from under the stairs. They pass by her. Then she gets caught by one of them, and he's about to, wring her fucking neck or something. And then Turner shows up, kicks that guy's ass, and saves her. She's like, run, Sam! So Sam runs to the roof. Jack is out on the street, and he sees her up on the roof. And then he sees other thugs going up to the roof to get her. So he starts climbing fire escapes and shit. And then, one of them breaks, and he's about to fall, 10 feet. Then he makes it. He gets up there. Sam and all the thugs, they're running around the rooftops and shit. She's hiding from them, evading them and everything. And so then Jack finds the hunter, okay? And the hunter has Sam. And he's over at the side of the building, and he's holding her over the edge, and he's got a fucking gun to her head and shit. And he's like, stop right there, motherfucker. Okay? And then Jack is like, whoa, man. All right, let's make a deal or something like that. And he's like, yeah, you put your gun down. He's like, yeah, I'll put my gun down, okay? But I'll put my gun down, and you let her go. All right, I'm going to make a deal with you. I'll give you my life for hers. Fuck it. I don't care. It's cool. She's my daughter. You can kill me. I know you want to kill me. I will let you kill me if you'll just let her go. And the guy's like, yeah, you know what? Deal. He's like, kick your gun over to me. And he's like, yeah, okay, I'll kick it to you. And he's looking at Sam, and he's like, it's okay, Sam. It's okay. And he's kicking the gun over and stuff. And he looks at Sam, and he says, you know what this means, right, Sam? And Sam's just like looking at him and crying. And then he just looks at her and he goes, it means we're dead already. And then Sam gets the hint, and she's like, oh, shit, all right. And then she does her disarming move. Okay? She gets the gun out of the guy's hand and hits him and shit. And in the confusion, Jack just runs, grabs that motherfucker, just jumps off of the roof with him. So then they fall down, and as they hit the ground, the hunter's head hits the fucking ground. And then this big explosion of blood is left on the ground. And it's like, oh, shit, well, that was easy. Except, nope, he gets back up. Now, they both fell off, so they're having a fight, but they're all like real fucking dazed. Just like throwing punches and trying to keep their balance. So the hunter breaks off some pole that he's gonna fucking kick Jack's ass with, and then Jack stops him, grabs the pole, and then breaks his fucking arm, right? And he breaks his arm, and he's slamming him around, slams his head into the fucking wall, and he gets him down to his knees. And here's the thing, all right. This is what this looked like to me. It was a little hard to tell what had happened, but he's got this guy, Jack has this guy on his knees, and he bends his head back, and you hear a crack, okay? I'm pretty sure Jack, through his, awesome badassery, broke this fucker's neck without him dying. Okay, and the guy's head is just popped back, okay? And then Jack just goes, look at me. And the guy's looking off in the distance. Whatever just happened is fucked him up good. Okay. He's like, look at me. And then he just moved his eyes. He does not move the rest of his head or anything.
Yeah.
And as soon as he looks at him, Jack just punches him in the face. And he just falls down on the ground. And, whether he's dead or not from that, you can't really tell because, you don't have time. Because Jack just picks him up by his feet and throws him off of the roof of that building that they're on. Okay? So now he's definitely fucking dead. Okay? Because when they originally fell off the building, they fell onto another building. Blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
And then Jack and Turner and Sam, they just walk away. So then we got the epilogue, okay? And Jack is back at the... Jack is back. He's back at the military police command in D.C., and he meets with Turner. And now she's in her uniform, and she looks really nice and neat and stuff. And she's like, yeah, how about that? You came looking for one girl, and you ended up with another, didn't you? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, yeah, you know what? Let me know how that turns out. And he's like, you know, I still got your number. And she's like, yeah, bye, Reacher. He's like, all right, Major. I love you. And then Turner is walking back into her office and stuff. And then you see Espen. And he's like, it's good to see you back, Major. And she's like, thank you, Captain. The promotion that Jack Reacher passed him over for. He finally got it. And then we see Jack and Sam, and they're in a diner. And they're there to meet with her mother. And she's like, so you know, tell me, Jack, are you my dad or not? And he's like, I guess we'll see when your mother gets here. You know, she'll be able to ID me. And then Sam says, you know what? You're not my father. And he's like, what? What are you talking about? She's like, yeah. You see that waitress over there? And he looks over, he sees this waitress, and she's like, yeah, the same lady that's refilled your coffee like 3 times now? He's like, yeah. Well, that's my mother. And if you two had any idea who each other were, you guys would have been talking by now. And he's like, oh, shit. So then he's taking her and he drops her back off at that private school that she's going to go to now.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, you know what? The way you live your life, you know, don't you ever get lonely? And he's like, sometimes. Yeah, sometimes I do. And she's like, well, you can call me when you do. And then she starts crying and shit. And you're just like, damn, dude. They're not father and daughter. That sucks for, like, they're both pissed off about it. And she's like, all right, well, I got to go. You know, I got drawing class. And he's like, yeah, you need to keep drawing, okay? Because you're really good at it. You are really good. And she's like, okay. He's like, you're going to be okay, kid. And she's like, all right. So she leaves. So she's walking away from him, and then she just turns around and just runs back to him. And then he turns around, and they have this big hug. You know, like they love each other and stuff. And while they're hugging, she drops a phone into his pocket. She's like, I'll see you around, Reacher. And then it cuts to him just walking down a lonely highway, you know, in his fucking white T-shirt and shit. And he's got his jacket hanging on his arm. He's just walking down the highway. And then he hears a phone buzzing. And he's like, what the hell? And he reaches into his jacket and he finds it. He reads a text and it says, you miss me yet? So then he like starts to smile, right? And then he like kind of chuckles and shit, and he's looking off into the distance, and then he gives this big old gigantic Tom Cruise smile. And then he juts his thumb out, and he's waiting for a ride now. He's gonna ride off into the sunset. He's loving the fact that he's got this like weird daughter relationship now, and fucking credits roll. That's the end. He's all happy, right. And he's gonna go on.
Jesus, what'd they do to Jack Reacher?
I know. I'm sorry.
Like 3 Jack Reachers and a baby.
That it was. It was not the same as
Sounds
the
like
first
it should have
movie.
been like the 5th or the 6th in the series.
Yeah, I know. And, to be honest, it was probably like the 5th or 6th book.
Yeah.
Like they tried to get all emotional with it and shit this time.
That's bullshit. That's what made the first one work.
Oh, yeah. He was just like a straight man doing what needed to be done.
Yeah. Well, good job, Ron.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
All right, folks. If you like what you hear, leave us a rating and a review. We'd much appreciate it. Look us up at Movies with Ron on Twitter and Instagram. We also got a Facebook. All right. It's been fun.
All right. Love you guys.
Bye.
Movies with Ron.
Final chapter. No. Endgame. No.